The light gun for the NES, aka the Zapper, is perhaps best known for murdering hapless ducks while your very own dog taunts you endlessly. Among the earliest NES games, the Zapper was integrated a fair amount. The original 30 NES games, otherwise referred to as the black box games, had 4 light gun games alone. Of the entire 700 game plus library, including licensed and unlicensed games, there are less than 20 total that use the Zapper. The first 3 were Duck Hunt, Hogan's Alley, and Wild Gunman, all ports of existing arcade games as many of those original NES games were, and all first released on Japan's Famicom before coming to North America. Gumshoe would arrive a little later as the 4th light gun game, by my count, showing up in arcades in May of '86 and home consoles just a few months later. Interestingly, even though developed and published by Nintendo, Gumshoe never graced Japan. Well, let's see what's up with this oddball light gun game on the NES. Gumshoe is a single-player, auto-scrolling, light gun platformer, and despite being an arcade port of a mid-'80s light gun game, it's not just a high-score chaser. There's actually a campaign and story here. I would say you play as Mr. Stevenson, the game's cover character who looks more like an undercover pervert or a Dollar General Dick Tracy than an FBI agent, but I'm not even sure you are playing as Mr. Stevenson, as you are tasked with repeatedly firing a gun at him. I think you hate Mr. Stevenson. In fact, firing your Zapper at Mr. Stevenson makes him jump as if each time you fire in his direction, you scare the bejesus out of him.
Oh God! Why?
Turns out, Mr. Stevenson is an ex-FBI agent, now turned private detective, hence the title. For those uninitiated to early 20th century cop slang, a gumshoe is called a gumshoe because they apparently wore street shoes with a thick, soft, and quiet rubber sole. So their shoes were rubber, gum is rubber, you get it, their shoes were quiet. Which is why it makes sense in this game to fire a loud gun at his feet as he makes his way around the world investigating his daughter's kidnapping. That's right, Mr. Stevenson has received a ransom note from a mafia boss, King Dom. Like Kingdom, almost, but, you know, not. King Dom has kidnapped Stevenson's daughter, Jennifer, and that's no bueno. And even worse, she had probably been missing for 3 days and Stevenson didn't even notice until he got the note. Total shame. Anyway, in order to get his daughter back, Stevenson has to satisfy the ransom by collecting 5 diamonds. Specifically, he must collect 5 Black Panther diamonds within 24 hours to get his daughter back. Why are they called Black Panther diamonds? Well, why are anything with this game, you know? That said, if you don't collect all the diamonds, you can't finish the game. And yes, there is an oppressive game clock. You have to get those diamonds within 24 hours, which is technically 24 minutes in game time, and each level has its own time limit of 6 minutes. This is an auto-scroller, so there's only so much you can do in the way of time, but causing Stevenson to jump a ton obviously slows down his horizontal progress, something to keep in mind. Jumping is obviously integral to the experience. For starters, there are gaps where Stevenson can fall into an abyss of doom if you don't scare him across.
Oh God!
Then you'll notice there are lots of balloons out and about. Was there a parade nearby? Maybe. But it was a parade for Smith & Wesson, as each of these are filled with ammo. Touch balloons, gain bullets. It makes total sense. Even though balloons look shootable, you don't shoot them. You just touch them. You can't shoot the balloons, no matter how bad you want to. You have to shoot Stevenson into the balloons, but there are other obstacles in his path for you to shoot and destroy, like birds, falling rocks, and other enemies. That's where the game's challenge and dilemmas come from. As you make your way through a level, giving Stevenson PTSD from near misses with your Zapper, you'll need to keep your wrist on a swivel in order to eliminate any perils in his path while also keeping him afloat. It's challenging, and you might have to scooch a little closer to your TV than you normally would for a Zapper game, but I won't tell anyone if you don't. The game has 4 total stages, each with a very basic theme. You start in the city, and then venture into the clouds for the sky level, into the water for the sea level, and lastly, you bound through a jungle level. You only get 3 lives to do it, but you do get infinite continues. If you fire your Zapper at the game over screen, it'll toss you back to the beginning of the last stage you were on. The stages are surprisingly long, so you'll be replaying lots of the game over and over in order to make progress, and your trigger finger will hate you for it. You'll definitely come to memorize the levels, which helps in this one since sometimes enemies can come seemingly out of nowhere, or you might venture into an area of the screen that puts you in a pickle as the level scrolls on. So you have some lessons to learn through trial and error. You can get power-ups from failed enemies to help you along though, like a power drink that gives you an extra hit before death, helmets to avoid the impact of falling rocks, and super shoes that protect you from certain enemies, and more. Since you can't really control Stevenson, timing your shots on enemies to coincide with where you'll be on screen to grab a power-up is an art form. I think what's here in Gumshoe can be kind of fun, but the game could have benefited from a turn-taking two-player mode just to give one player a break to ice their finger. Also, some mini-games or a level select mode might have helped folks get more miles out of this one. Seriously, it's not bad, it's just bare. That was par for the course with these early NES experiences. If you're interested in putting your zapper to good use, well, this is a game to do it with, but don't expect much. You'll become quickly fatigued with the limited fun this one has to offer. However, it does have a fitting, hard-boiled detective soundtrack to push you along. Gumshoe on the NES is a singular experience. There weren't any direct sequels or derivatives of note. If you like balloons, though, you can always play Balloon Fight, I guess. And if you like using the zapper, you can just use your zapper around the house. Hold your cat up for snuggles. Shoot at bad guys on the TV. Have your fun. Either way, that's going to do it for Gumshoe on the NES. As always, check often to make sure your family hasn't been kidnapped. And thanks for watching.